In 2014, Apple released the first ever plus-sized phone in the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus, and the introduction of this 5.5-inch screen was a big moment for iPhone fans. However, this created a dilemma for iPhone users. How much did I want this big and useful screen versus how usable would this screen be and how manageable would it be on a day-to-day basis? Fast forward to 2023 and Apple released the new iPhone 15s. On the surface, it didn't look like a big change and I was very happy with my 14 Pro. However, as somebody who's keen to keep up to date with the best tech whenever possible, I decided to upgrade just to change it up a little bit. And I thought I'd go to the max size to see how it has come along over the years in terms of usability, functionality and design. As usual, Apple saved their better features for the Pro devices with better cameras and better battery life, as well as the action button itself, amongst other things. Now myself, I like to go for the Pro devices, and having not had a large phone for a long time, I was quite interested in what the Max device was like. Now interestingly, when you compare the price of the 256 gig iPhone Pro with the entry-level iPhone Pro Max, which has 256 gig, they actually price up pretty evenly. And in my opinion, that helps with the value proposition quite a lot. Now in terms of design, the Pros came with the titanium finish, and this was much more of a bigger deal than people gave it credit for, particularly on the iPhone 15 Pro Max. Now my big concern about this phone was that it was going to be too large for my pockets, too heavy, too cumbersome as my experiences before, but I gotta say, it's incredible how much of a difference the titanium finish has made to the actual weight and the feel of this phone. It really doesn't feel that bulky at all. And I've got friends with the regular 15 Pro, and when they saw my 15 Pro Max, they were quite shocked at how little the difference was between the two phones in terms of how they felt in size and in weight. And that's one of the great things Apple's done with this latest 15 Pro Max. With thinner bezels, smoother edges, this really does feel like a more pocketable version of the Pro Max phones. Now I've pretty much gone for the black version of every single iPhone that I've ever owned. That's just me. I like the black versions of devices. I think they look slicker and smarter. However, this is the first time I've gone for something a little bit different with the natural titanium version of this phone. And I gotta say, I really love the industrial look of this titanium finish. I think it looks great. And with this new color, design and tough titanium finish, I decided to go brave and go caseless. But this was the year. With titanium, with this space grade alloy that they make satellite dishes and rockets with, this had to be the time I was gonna go caseless. So I did it, people. I went caseless. I liberated my phone from the shackles of cases, and I stayed like this for about a day. And then I remembered how expensive it was and how much I didn't want to see it get damaged. And then of course, I put a case on it. I mean, come on, don't judge me. This is the centerpiece of my tech world. My smartphone is the hub that everything revolves around, and I can't let anything happen to it. Now I have a simple rule with gadget protection. At the end of the day, as long as the cases and screen protectors and whatever have you don't inhibit the user experience or the functionality of a device, I'm cool with it. However, one thing I don't do anymore is screen protectors. I don't bother putting a screen protector on my iPhone anymore because I do feel like it does take away from a little bit of the image quality, a little bit of that screen quality and the touch interface itself. And I do believe that the iPhone screens are tough enough to take abuse, and most cases have a little bit of a lip that prevent the screens making direct contact with a hard surface on a drop. And that adds that extra layer of protection too. So another groundbreaking bleeding edge technology that Apple put on this device was USB-C. I know, it's been out there for ages, we've been waiting, and Apple probably didn't choose to put it on there themselves, but it's here now, it's great, Apple making great use of it, and I'm just really happy to have it. Now with my iPhone, iPad, and my MacBook Pro all on the same charging device, this is a game changer for me. The only thing that's left now is my AirPod Maxes and Pros, which is still on Lightning. And weirdly, the keyboard and trackpad for my Mac is also on Lightning. But anyway, apart from that, the Lightning era is almost over. And with all due respect, it was great when Apple brought it out. If you think about it, it was ahead of its time with some of the great features of USB-C, but it just wasn't common. It was a unique cable type to Apple. And as the world moved on and everybody started going to USB-C, it was pretty inconvenient not to have it. So gone are the days when you go to a friend or family's house who don't have Apple devices and you've got no way of charging your phone. You can even share cables with your Android buddies now. But most importantly, this USB-C port now allows you to be able to connect a host of additional peripherals to your device, like an external SSD drive with read and write capabilities. And this is quite important to a feature that I'll come to later. Now another thing that's new on the brand new Apple iPhone 15 Pros is the addition of an action button. Gone is the little trusty switch that we've got used to over the years that helped you silent your phone, and instead now you have a action button. Interestingly, this is a unique feature to the Pro models. The iPhone 15 still has your trusty switch. On these models, this is now an action button which is configurable. Now Apple give you a couple of options of what you can configure it to, some presets. However, if you're familiar with Apple shortcuts, then you can actually configure this button to pretty much anything you like. And don't worry, you can still use it just to turn your phone in silent mode as well if you want. But please don't be boring and do that. Try something new. So I messed about with a bunch of different things like activating my camera, activating my flashlight, and I didn't really find anything in particular that was really catching me. In the end, I started to nerd out on shortcuts. I hadn't really spent much time with it before, but this was a good reason to give it a go. And after spending a bit of time with shortcuts, I started to come out with some cool shortcuts that I could associate with the button. So now when I press the action button, it pulls up a menu of shortcuts that I can easily get to in a pinch, like my tea timer. Yes, a tea timer. Did you know it takes 2 minutes for the perfect infusion of tea bag and water? Yeah, that's how you get a great cup of tea, people. And that's why you need to have it on your action button. Now, the large screen experience is what this iPhone 15 Pro Max is all about. And I can't deny that it's great. It's always going to be better to have more screen space to do things on. Everything you do is enhanced, whether it's watching things, reading things, or doing things. Now, I gotta say, it's a bit of a shame that iOS doesn't let you do a lot more in terms of multitasking, but we're getting there bit by bit, and there's definitely benefits of having this bigger screen when you're trying to be productive. One of the things that I love the most is having a little picture-in-picture screen for YouTube or movies that I'm watching, and this screen size really does lend well to having an extra little screen to watch while you're doing other things. Now, one of the key features of this phone for me, and one of the big reasons for me to upgrade, was the battery life. Now, I loved my iPhone 14 Pro. It was a really great experience, but I did start to have one issue with it, which was the battery life. Although the battery life is pretty solid, I started to feel like it was waning, and this was after just 1 year. In the end, I started to feel like I was getting battery anxiety, and this for me is a red line. Any given time when you start to hesitate to use some of the features in your device because you're worried about the battery dying on you, this is a problem, and this is something that I just couldn't accept. And I really wanted to get away from that battery anxiety. And that's something I don't feel at all on the iPhone 15 Pro Max. The battery life on this device is fantastic. It gets me easily through a whole day and way into the night. I don't have to worry about charging this thing at all. And I use this phone as much as I like, doing whatever I want to do with it, never thinking twice about how much battery it might use up. And that's really important. And as I said, you shouldn't get battery anxiety on a device like a smartphone. It just starts to take away from the usability and the experience of that device. And while I'm on this topic, I might as well address some of the overheating issues that the iPhone 15's had at the beginning of launch. And look, it's over. After a few patches from Apple, the heat and gate issue is over. And I've had no issues with my iPhone overheating at all. So that'd be that. So now to the juicy part, the cameras. And really and truly, this comes down to the big question. Why do we have iPhones and iPhone Pros? And what really makes an iPhone Pro Pro? And in my opinion, the Pro features have always been around the cameras. However, this time around, as they've done in the past, Apple's decided to give some marquee features to the 15 Pro Max over the 15 Pro. And the feature I'm talking about in particular is the 5x optical zoom that you get on the iPhone 15 Pro Max that you do not get on the 15 Pro. Apart from that, they both have 48 megapixel cameras which capture an incredible amount of detail and then pack it into 24 megapixel pictures. What this really means is that the cameras are capturing more detail than you actually need in your picture, meaning that when you punch into a picture, you're going to see that extra detail. Now, as a keen photographer, I always want to have the best shoot with me at all times, and it's not always easy to carry around a big DSLR camera, and that's where the iPhone 15 Pro Max's superpower really comes into play. On a recent trip to St Ives, Cornwall on the south coast of Great Britain, I got to put the camera through its paces to explore what it could really do, and I was not at all disappointed. It's unbelievable how capable and versatile the iPhone's camera really is, capturing different formats, styles and high quality images and video clips in different conditions just seconds after taking it out of your pocket. You just can't beat that efficiency or convenience, and I'm really loving the awesome new exclusive zoom capabilities of the Pro Max. It really is the total package. I think these days, if you want to be a content creator, you really don't even have to spend that much money on professional cameras anymore. And for me, I love using my iPhone as my secondary camera. It's a great additional camera to my setup, and it helps me get different angles and get different perspectives. And it's also the camera that's always on me when I want to capture B-roll on the move, or some of the footage when I'm traveling, when I just see a great moment that I just want to capture on the fly. Now back to the USB-C port. As I mentioned earlier, you're now able to add a bunch of peripherals to it, and one of the things I mentioned was an SSD hard drive. As I mentioned, if you connect a hard drive to your iPhone now, it actually unlocks the ability to film in log. Now log is basically a more high quality video format that allows you to fine tune and color grade your footage to industry professional level standard, and that is amazing, truly taking the iPhone 15 Pro Max to pro levels. Now with this in mind, you may have seen the recent Scary Fast Apple event. This was basically a keynote to introduce the world to the brand new M3 MacBook Pros, but in the end it turned out to be a 30-minute advertisement for just how awesome the iPhone 15 Pros are. With the high production values and the high quality videos that Apple produce, it was a shocker for most people that right at the end of the video, Apple snuck in a little bit of text to tell everyone that the entire keynote had been filmed on an iPhone 15 Pro Max. And that was a flex. And since that video, it kicked off a little trend where tech YouTubers and other creators start to shoot their entire videos on iPhone 15 Pros. And I know what you're thinking, did you do the same thing? Yeah, of course I did. Check out my Apple Ultra Watch 2 video. The whole thing is shot on my iPhone 15 Pro Max, and I think you'll be really impressed with what you see. So after you finish this video and have heard all about me talking about the phone, why don't you watch that video and see what it can actually do. So living day to day with this iPhone has been great. I've had a great experience with it. Like I said, battery life, usability, you name it, it's all been great. And the bigger, larger size, as I mentioned, has not been a problem, and in fact, it's been nothing but a benefit. So I'm really happy with the iPhone 15 Pro Max. It's been a great experience so far. I'll be curious to see if I start to see battery degradation like I saw on the 14 Pro. I hope not, because I'm really happy with this phone and I'm hoping not to see any problems with it. And I'm loving the fact that it's an extra tool in my creator toolkit that helps me make my videos and create content. My advice, as always, is always try and get the best tech you can afford comfortably. And if you can afford to get the iPhone 15 Pro and 15 Pro Max, I would highly recommend them. They are fantastic devices and you will not be disappointed. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, drop me some comments. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel already, please do subscribe to my channel. I'm trying to make it to that first 1,000 mark. It's kind of my fault for taking so long because I don't really post enough, but I'm hoping to start posting more regularly, and I hope that you stick on this journey with me. So until next time, see ya, peace.